I always find it amazing that when you have that friend, you have that person you know that you always tell them, just don't do that. But you always got that friend who just doesn't seem to listen. No matter what you say or what you do, they just don't seem to listen. Let me give you an example here. When I was growing up, I lived out in the country, and one of my friends fell through the ice when we were out playing on the ice out on the creek. We lived about a mile from my house. Now, I told this guy, I said, look, dude, I said, don't go to that side of the creek. You know, we all have that one friend, you know, who just says, I'm going to do what I want to do no matter what I want to do. No matter what you say or what anybody else says. You know, it's just that one friend, no matter what we say, he's still going to do it. So I remember I told Scott, I said, Scott, just don't go to that side of the creek. So we're skating down the creek because we didn't have cell phones, so if something bad happened, we couldn't just call, hey, I need some help here. There were no such thing as cell phones way back when. Some of you may not understand that. But it was Scott. He decided to go onto the other side of the creek. And so what do you think happened? Well, obviously you know, Scott fell right through the ice. And I mean, he's breaking ice and he's panicking, freaking out, breaking ice and trying to get back up. And I remember I ran out there as fast as I could to get to him. And I got up to him and the ice started breaking on me. And I'm like, I'm not going to stay here and help you. So I backtracked to thicker ice and he just kept breaking. He kept breaking and he kept breaking. Until finally the ice was thick enough to where he could pull himself up. Then I was able to help grab his arm and pull him up. But I remember Scott just being freaked out. Totally freaked out. But not just that, but he was frozen. Now we had a mile walk back to my house. But no matter what I said, he didn't listen, but we all have one of those friends that do that. They just don't seem to listen. We have, especially if you have kids. Holy cow, your kids don't seem to listen. But that's just part of going through life. That's just part of going through life. And it's not that big of a deal. We just got to put the right perspective around it and make sure we have the right attitude when we're looking at why people do dumb stuff. They just do. You can't answer that question. It's just $1 million question to try to answer. But there's just sometimes we just need a little bit of help to make sure we get him back to safety. So Scott, I walked him all the way back, a whole mile back to my house. Cold as all get up. We hid him down in my storm cellar. Never told a parent, ever. Never told the parents. We just stuck him in the storm cellar. I said, dude, stay here. I'll go get you some clothes. I took Scott some clothes, and I mean, Scott was so happy, but he was still frozen. So we got him in the house, and he warmed up. But at the end of the day, Scott learned a valuable lesson. When someone tells you something, sometimes you just got to listen. Sometimes it's just worth listening no matter what you do. You know, and then there's that person, you're still trying to help them along, and sometimes they just need a little bit of help to get them to where they want to go. Now, Scott, I knew that where he was, I had to help him back because he couldn't have made it by himself. And maybe he could have. But in most cases, he wouldn't have because he had me there as his support. Sometimes we just need to hold your hand or have someone hold your hand as they walk you along until you develop what you need, the courage to do what it is you want to do. Our attitudes are everything when it comes to living our lives. Our attitudes determine our direction, determine our outcome. They really determine our actions. Give me an example. Many years ago, we took our kids to Hawaii, our 3 girls, and there's a place called Black Rock on Maui, and we're going to do some cliff jumping. And I remember my daughter Faith, she was 9 years old at the time, and it wasn't real high, probably 25 foot up, so it wasn't real high, water about 30 feet deep. But I remember we swam about 30 yards out there to where we had to climb up. And I remember we went up this cliff, we climbed all the way up, and we got to the very top. And as we were sitting at the very top, it looks a lot higher when you're up there than it does from the bottom. I mean, this is now real. We're going to jump. I remember the first time I did it, I was praying on the way down. God, please don't let me die. Please don't let me die. Please don't let me die. And it's not even like it was that high. But there were people out there jumping. And I watched this one guy. He was this big muscular guy. I mean, he was a big guy, big muscles, big guns. And I remember watching this guy. He wouldn't jump. He was scared. I watched him come all the way down to a lower spot to jump off. And so it really discouraged my daughter a little bit when she saw that this big, buff, tough-looking, muscle-bound guy, he wouldn't do it himself. So her and I are up there. We're looking down, and I grab her by her hand, and I told her, I said, look, Faith, remember this, when we jump, there is no turning back. So make sure that you want to jump when we jump, because there is no turning back once we jump. Sometimes we just need someone to hold our hand till we develop enough courage to jump ourselves and to jump into the life that we want to live ourselves. So I grabbed her hand. She held onto mine tight. I said, "Are you ready? On 3. We counted 1, 2, 3, and we jumped. And we hit that water. Oh, and she was elated. She was elated beyond measure. People were clapping. People out in the water were clapping because they were so excited to see this young little girl overcome her fears and develop this new courage to stand up and do something amazing. But my daughter, she was just elated in ways you couldn't imagine because she did something, but it took someone holding her hand just one time so she could develop her own courage. And sometimes in our lives, we just need someone to help us along and hold our hand while we develop the courage we need to go forward and to be great in whatever we decided to do. It doesn't matter what it is. Sometimes just having someone to hold your hand can make all the difference in our attitudes.